Welcome to another episode of Show and Tell Books. I'm Amber,
And I'm Chantel.
and today we're talking about Every Summer After and Meet Me at the Lake by Carley Fortune. So I'm curious to hear more about Chantel's thoughts on these books because I know they're not necessarily her favorite. Every Summer After was a bestseller from last year. It was all over TikTok and social media, and we both really enjoyed it enough to want to try Meet Me at the Lake. Every Summer After, to me, if you've read Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, Every Summer After has a very similar feel.
Every Summer After is told in the same timeline style as like People We Meet on Vacation is, where it's one chapter, present tense, one chapter in the past. So it starts out with Percy or Persephone receiving a phone call from Charlie saying that his mom has passed away. So she drives to the lake town where she spent all her summers growing up to attend this funeral. And while there, she sees Charlie's younger brother, Sam. They haven't spoken in 12 years because of something that went wrong. So you're getting little snippets of what went wrong during the past tense and then also like seeing why it's so awkward with them in the present tense. And it's spectacularly done. I will put in a like caveat. A lot of readers get upset with Carley Fortune because she is in the gray area of cheating for both of these books. So that is like a trigger for you. Do take these books with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it was my biggest complaint for Every Summer After. And once I finished reading Meet Me at the Lake, I was like, my girl Carley, you got to stop with this trope. I'm not a
Which
fan.
is which is what a lot of people are currently saying now that they've read Meet Me at the Lake. They're like, okay, move on from the cheating. Like, well, technically no cheating happens. It is mental cheating, and that is still not
Yeah,
appropriate.
it's the emotional cheating aspect that really
Mm-hmm.
bothered me. Meet Me at the Lake is told in the same style as Every Summer After, except for the time period of the past is really just one day. So there's that difference in time frame where Every Summer After is about a relationship over the course of 17 years, and Meet Me at the Lake is a look back at one day with an individual 9 years ago, and then picking up with them that long period after their one day together. I think it's really hard to tell a story in flashbacks because you have to balance the breadcrumbs that you're leaving for readers. And I think that's something that was very impressive about Every Summer After as a freshman novel for Carley to do so well. And I think that's one of the reasons we enjoyed it so much. But then Meet Me at the Lake seemed like it was a little bit more of a struggle for her to master that style of storytelling.
I agree. If this manner of telling a story is done well, like People We Meet on Vacation or like this one, right? It is spectacular because it's just enough of a breadcrumb to keep you going because you want to know what happened. But you have to plot out your book so well. And to be fair, this was part of the reason I didn't love Meet Me at the Lake is because the breadcrumbs weren't enough to keep me going. Like I finished the book and I read it, but it wasn't as artfully done as her debut novel. What do you call it? You call it a sophomore slump?
Yeah, I felt like it was a sophomore slump. It felt like there was a rush to finish to meet a publishing deadline, and it showed, in my opinion, where that plotting and that story development wasn't necessarily on the same level.
Which was my complaint. So for reference, again, like Every Summer After got 5 stars for me. But Meet Me at the Lake, I only gave it 2, which maybe was slightly on the harsher side. But I thought the story was there. It just wasn't fleshed out like it should have been. So while the story was great and it was cute, the characters were great. I didn't fall in love with them on the page because it felt rushed and because it felt like the timing and the pacing of the novel was being more dictated by a like publishing deadline than by the characters themselves.
So to just quickly recap, Every Summer After, Chantel gave it a 5-star review. I gave it 4 stars, which is one of the few times that we flip-flopped on our star rating.
Yeah, where you're lower.
And for me, it was kind of that element of not cheating,
The cheating.
but cheating. that you get at the end of the story. On a spice scale, I think this book was a 3. Yeah, that's what I thought. And I think a big part of that is because this felt like a new adult novel, in that there was quite a bit of the adolescent relationship in the flashbacks, and then the adult relationship once they're getting to know each other again in the sad circumstance of her visiting the small town again. The twist in this book, I remember being good. But I can't actually remember what it is.
So basically the plot twist was very on par, I think, with popular TV shows and books that happened last year. But that, again, is also in a gray area of who can you date, who can you not date kind of thing. I would take number 1, though, the plot twist that happens in number 1, over the plot twist in number 2.
These 2 books are not connected at all. So they are completely standalone novels. Fern had the intention of getting away from her small town her entire life, but her mother owned a resort, and when Fern was in college, she met Will the week before she was supposed to go back home to help with the resort. And in the magical day that they spent together, Fern really started to question like the relationship she had been in for 4 years with Jamie, and the relationship she wanted to have with her mother, the relationship she had with the resort. And then, like Chantel said, for him to not show up on the designated date really sent her into a tailspin of, what do I want from life? And I think kind of changed the trajectory of her dating life as well. So that's that kind of element of the emotional manipulation that takes place. I thought it was interesting that we're seeing Fern at 32 years old, and although the age of the characters are a bit older, I still felt like this was more of a new adult novel because they hadn't really figured out their expectations for life yet.
It felt like the heroine in Just Haven't Met You Yet, same age bracket, right? But the whole like midlife crisis kind of concept, obviously not at midlife, but like the whole, I'm actually an adult now. What am I supposed to do? How do I figure things out? Like, is my life where I wanted it to be back in my 20s and in college?
I'm glad you brought up Just Haven't Met You Yet, because there are similarities to that story with like the loss of the mother and reevaluating perceptions. And I think this is my biggest gripe with Carley's books. They're not super original. It's hard to keep the plots straight in my mind because there are so many other books that I've read, or that I read similar to the time frame that I read these, where I'm like, wait, am I getting this one confused with a different book?
Meet Me at the Lake has tons of snippets of different books, but I thought it was more original than Every Summer After.
Yeah, I agree with that, which was probably the saving grace for me, because I gave Meet Me at the Lake 3 stars, whereas you gave it 2 stars. And for me, it was kind of the more unique elements of the story that I connected with that moved it up from a 2-star to 3-star. It's fine. And that being Fern's struggle to figure out her relationship with the resort, and her lack of knowledge of who her father is.
So it's Dirty Dancing meets Love and Gelato and Just Haven't Met You Yet, with kind of a Every Summer After concept. Throw that all into a blender. That's what Meet Me at the Lake is.
Yeah. I do think that one thing that Carley did well was Will's discussion about his mental health. So I've noticed this trend in recent publicized books of talking about therapy or medicating for anxiety and depression. And, you know, Emily Henry did it with The Happy Place. Carley did it in Meet Me at the Lake. Although, in my opinion, none of them have done it perfectly, I think Carley did it the most realistically so far that I've read, where she does talk about it being a process, and that's Will's journey in the past 9 years of growing into an adult before he and Fern meet again. It's interesting how we both read the same book and have very different opinions on how it was treated.
There's two issues that I had with the book. The pacing of the emotional manipulation that Will puts Fern through throughout the entire novel. He wasn't necessarily purposely doing it, which is what they talk about at the end. But I think because of the like publishing deadline and the timing of the book, the manipulation came across more as abusive than as an unintended consequence of his personal traumas that he's going through.
I truly believe if she had a little bit more time with this book, it would have been executed so much better. And I applaud her for doing something different. But unfortunately, your criticisms are valid. And I think it's an aspect of the time spent with the manuscript.
Actually, blame more the editors and like the publishing company than I do Carley, because that is the role of an editor, is to figure out, okay, we need to flesh this out a little bit more, or pull this or things like that. But I think because whoever the publishing company was so fixated on, we have to let this out right before summer and, hit when all the big authors are doing it. So, we're just going to rush this in production. And I think you felt that in the style of writing.
I will say, I think the development of Fern as a character overall was ambitious. She is in an identity crisis when she meets Will on that one day. So I think that seeing how she changed trajectory after that day and where it took her in the lapsing time was interesting. And then to have them meet again and over the course of a few months, how that impacted her specifically and her outlook on different relationships was really interesting, because she had to reevaluate the relationship she had with her mother, who had recently passed. So she was still heavily in the grief cycle of her mother's passing, trying to evaluate her relationship with the resort and then with the staff who were still at the resort who knew her as a child.
Like the ex-boyfriend.
Like the ex-boyfriend and the pastry chef who has this, he's the father figure. He's very connected to her personal life story, but she doesn't necessarily know to what depth. And that's always been a question in her mind. So I thought that was really relatable if you have shared experiences. If you haven't shared some of those experiences with Fern, then I think she's a difficult character to connect with.
I felt like there was a lot going on that you were trying to understand, because you're right. There's how she was in high school, which you're getting in snippets, both past and present still. You're getting the whole trying to figure out her father and reconnect with her mother who had passed away. You're getting the whole drama of that one day with Will, and you're getting the trying to figure out her identity as the resort owner, in addition to confronting how her mother was as a shadow of how she's being, right? And then also Will in present tense trying to help her figure out what she's going to do with the resort. It was just so much going on that I think that is part of the reason I also didn't like it.
As you were talking about it, I kind of thought of Icebreaker. One of my biggest criticisms, besides the excessive amount of smut that is in that book, is that there's a lot going on and not a lot going on at the same time, which is what you're talking about with Meet Me at the Lake. There's a lot of internal conflicts going on, or aspects of the plot that aren't necessary. And I feel like Hannah Grace's Icebreaker has a lot of that too, where these authors could have benefited from narrowing down their scope and just picking a few things and then moving forward instead of trying to include everything.
I feel like a lot of editors are trying to figure out how much they can just kind of sweep under the rug and still make it popular, which is easier for them, but sometimes makes it so that authors inadvertently end up publishing a novel that is not as good as it could have been.
I'm not going to be as excited to pick up her next book when it comes out, just because now I'm going to be hesitant. Whereas after reading Every Summer After, when I heard she had another book coming out, I was much more excited to see what it would be, and also kind of expecting it to be a continuation of the Every Summer After storyline. And I think that might have resulted in some of the disappointment fans have expressed for Meet Me at the Lake, is because it's not that continuation people were anticipating. So I think this is a classic case of marketing and publisher pressure impacting the fans' reception of the book.
I will probably read Carly's next book, especially if it is Charlie's continuation, which is what I'm thinking she might have to do in a way to kind of fully bring back her fans.
What would you rate Meet Me at the Lake on the spice scale?
Probably a 3.5.
Yeah,
I'd more or less say it's the same as Every Summer After.
That's where I was at too. And I think it's that element of the flashbacks.
I will say Meet Me at the Lake has more sex scenes than Every Summer After.
Yeah, I don't remember them being like a play-by-play as much as it just like they were doing it like rabbits. I think she used the physical relationship between Will and Fern to showcase kind of that honeymoon infatuation period, but it also prevented them from developing further in their relationship emotionally and dealing with things in a healthy manner. So it felt realistic in a way, because couples often do enter that honeymoon phase of, well, let's just, instead of dealing with things head on and having a conversation, we'll just push it off to the side and forget about it or worry about it later. But it's that red flag aspect of their relationship that really bothered me more than possibly anything else, was the lack of communication that they truly had. And she waited until like the last 10% of the book to have them actually start communicating. So we recommend Every Summer After. We're on the fence about if you should read Meet Me at the Lake. It's one of those that if you are looking for a book to skip this summer, I would consider skipping Meet Me at the Lake.
Drop a comment. Let us know if you've read it and you loved it. Like, let us know why. I don't hate the book. I just think there are certain issues that I wish had been better addressed. And so let us know your thoughts. Who do you agree with more? Do you guys completely disagree and you love the book and it's fantastic? Like, just let us know in the comments. Also, let us know if there are any other books you want us to review or look at. Don't forget to watch another video, like, and subscribe. We'll see you guys next time, I guess.
Yeah. Talk to you next time.
See ya.